Let's talk about Nepal. Nepal and China had signed a framework agreement on BRI on May 12, 2017, valid up to May 12, 2020, subject to renewable, according to Article 5.1 of the agreement paper. The idea of railway linking China to Nepal has captured imagination since Mao Zedong and King Birendra first mooted the idea in 1973, according to Peters 2019. During Chinese President Xi Jinping official visit to Nepal in recent past, plans to carry out an extended detailed feasibility study into China-Nepal railway project were among 20 agreements signed between the two countries. Initial budget for the railway would cost approximately $3 billion. The 70-kilometer railway line, some argue to be a game changer, while others term it is vulnerable. The route that climbs from 1,400 meters above the sea level to around 4,000 meters goes through the Himalaya. This route, according to geologists, will be vulnerable to landslide and earthquake. Moreover, as much as 98% of the route would have to be made up of tunnels and bridges. Steep slopes, complex geographical terrain, and a need for a huge investment on tunneling would be a great challenge. An astonishing fact is passenger trains will even need to carry oxygen. Mrigendra Bahadur Karki has cited in Peters 2019. Wildlife experts argue that the railway route passing through the national parks, Langtang and Sivapuri, would have environmental threats to the nature and wildlife. Many endangered species, both birds and mammals, will disappear in near future. This is very alarming. Ornithologists believe that these two national parks are home to one-third of the country's bird species. Please remember that Nepal has more than 850 bird species. Nepal signed United Nations Convention Against Corruption on 10 December 2003, ratified it on 23 February 2011 and deposited its instrument of ratification on 29 March 2011. And Nepal ranks 113 out of 180 in Corruption Perception Index with a score of 34 out of 100. So, this situation is much better than previous year. Now, let me briefly touch upon Bangladesh and Myanmar situation also here. Bangladesh, according to the report, projects in Bangladesh are facing serious opposition as well. It cites the blacklisting of the China Harbour Engineering Company for offering bribes to a government official in Bangladesh. The company was hired to expand the Dhaka-Sylhet highway. The study notes and adds the cost, especially of road contracts quoted by the Chinese, are 5 to 10 times cost to that in China and more than 10 to 15 times to that in India. This, along with wider condition imposed by China, is causing concern for Bangladesh, say in 2019. The corporate governance in Bangladesh is not encouraging as well. Bangladesh ranks 146 out of 180 in Corruption Perception Index with the score of 26 out of 100. Myanmar and China signed an agreement to establish the China-Myanmar Economic Corridor, which is called CIMEC, a year ago as part of China's BRI Global Infrastructure Initiative. Due to military and ethnic armed conflicts there, the corridor has been facing problems. New railways, trade zones and other major infrastructure projects are part of the initiatives. Out of 38 projects proposed by China for CIMEC, Myanmar government has approved 9. Myanmar signed United Nations Convention Against Corruption on December 2, 2005 and ratified on December 20, 2012. Myanmar ranks 132 out of 180 in CPI in 2018, whereas in 2019 it ranks 130 out of 180. With a score of 29 out of 100 in 2018 and same score in 2019 also. So, I mean, having said these things, in conclusion, what I would like to say is BRI projects definitely focus on economic issues. However, its strategic significance cannot be undermined. China's desire for greater connectivity is apparent. In contrast, America's Indo-Pacific Strategy IPS and India-led BIMSTEC regional bloc is somehow perceived to be counter initiative of BRI. Given the fact that Djibouti's 1.4 billion US dollar debt, Laos expensive railway, which is 5.8 billion US dollar, and Pakistan's ambitious projects US dollar 62 billion are major concern for those who are hesitant to be the part of BRI projects. Some countries go to the extent to call BRI as debt trap diplomacy as well. Similarly, Sri Lanka's total debt that China alone accounts for 13.07%. However, its debt, as I mentioned earlier, it stands at US dollar 65 billion. Sri Lanka's Hambantota port of US dollar 1.2 billion has been portrayed as debt trap. The case of Bangladesh, Myanmar and Montenegro, Tajikistan, Kyrgyzstan, Mongolia and Maldives are learning lesson for other countries also who envision BRI projects as game changer. Nepal's case is specific to contextualize future projects that will be set for win-win situation. In spite of being the signatory of BRI, Nepal has not felt importance. Perhaps India factor is dominant, or perhaps Indo-Pacific strategy factor is important. The public perception is that if India does not want, Chinese rail will not travel to Nepal. So, in my observation, what I would like to focus is that at present context, road connectivity should be given first priority rather than expensive railway connectivity in Nepal. Considering our economic condition, and also second is the priority should be in establishing industrial parks and exploring suitable places for semi-industrialization, harnessing our core competencies. And third, Chinese investment should focus on mega projects such as mega hydropower, world class university, but not in Kathmandu, outside Kathmandu Valley, smart cities for housing projects, but not competing with the local investors. And fourth, China should not invest on sensitive sectors such as hospital, hotels, restaurant in Kathmandu. It's not good idea to invest in college and telecommunications. Chinese investments should not hurt and displace small and medium sized enterprises, SMEs, involved in wood and metal carving, pottery and other traditional handicraft business. Chinese investment should not be involved in land acquisition as well. Chinese FDI can be appropriate in manufacturing, such as umbrella making. We may have huge potential market in China and India. bicycle and motorcycle making, or even the development of the assembly line for automobile and others. Next, climate change and ecological balance are major issues. Polluting industries that have adverse effect on our ecology should not be chosen. To embrace the highest international standard, it may be wise for the BRI to integrate environment, social and corporate governance consideration into its business practice. Moreover, it is important to note that it's often criticized that infrastructure investment in developing countries usually involve corruption, pollution and human rights abuses. And in a nutshell, I would suggest three things here. Number one, greater transparency and scrutiny of the project is required. Number two, BRI steering committee is to be formed. And number three, international standard regulatory governance mechanisms should be set up to end bribery and corruption. At this moment, that's all I have to say. Thank you very much for your attention. Thank you.